What's up, guys? Today I'm going to be teaching you how to build your own Paragon boards. I've had a lot of people come to me asking how they go about this. I know a lot of people saw them at first and it was just a bunch of +5 main stats, but this system is actually quite in-depth and there's a lot of layers to it. It can be pretty overwhelming when you're making your own builds. So I thought I'd go ahead and kind of put together a little video and this will be for any class, how I go about building the Paragon boards. It gets a little easier once you get an understanding of how they work. So first of all, the Paragon boards basically are sort of an end game system. It's similar to a passive tree in Path of Exile, where once you get to level 50, you will no longer be getting skill points for your skills. You'll start gaining Paragon points. And every time you level up from 50 to 100, you'll get 4 Paragon points. You can also get some more Paragon points from increasing your renown. So this is one of the few pictures they've shown us. You can see that you kind of travel between the nodes. There's different kind of nodes and stuff like that. So we're going to go over all that. So personally, I like to use this website. I'll put it in the description down below for building the Paragon board, because I have them all laid out in front of me and it's easier to kind of like move around and put points wherever. So this kind of build, what we're going to do is I like to play Druid. So I put together just a quick little lightning storm build. So first thing you want to think about is, well, what skill you're playing, right? For whatever class. So we can see on like lightning storm, this website shows the tags associated with it. So it's a core skill, it's nature magic, it's storm, channeled, spirit damage. These will help us kind of know what nodes will buff the skill essentially. So first things first, knowing the build you want to play, obviously, and kind of building out the skill tree will be your first step. So once we have that, the first thing I personally recommend doing is going through each tree and looking at the legendary nodes. So as you can see, everyone will start, they have like a starter node where you start here and you have to travel up through here no matter what. Once you get up here to the gate, you will take this point and then you will attach another board to it. So for example, if we just take this board, it's a little tricky on this website, but basically if you click if you click the arrows here, this is the order they will be in. The 2 is up through the middle. So if you just type in a 2, it'll move it up here. Also, if you click on the gates, it'll ask you which board you want to put next. So there's a couple ways to do it. But yeah, so essentially you want to look through the legendary nodes first. So there's 8 boards you can pick from, not counting the starter board. So for a lightning build, we'll go over here. This one's called Thunderstruck. So sometimes the names can give you a pretty good hint. And we look at the legendary node, Thunderstruck. Storm skills deal increased crit damage against vulnerable or immobilized enemies. So our build is all about doing lightning damage. We have a storm skill. We're immobilizing with it. So that's looking like a pretty good board to work with, right? And then I would just go through like each of these. Your earth skills deal increased damage. I don't really do earth skills with this build, so that probably wouldn't help us. What else do we have? Survival instincts, werebear form, lust for carnage, werewolf. We're not using werebear or werewolf. The one I put up here was heightened malice, 3 or more poisoned enemies nearby. We definitely could add poison to this build. That's a possibility. Inner beast. After shapeshifting, your spirit costs are reduced by 10% for 5 seconds. On Druid, whenever you use like a werewolf skill, you will like shift into it. So you could have like a defensive skill that will give you some sort of spirit cost reduction. We could use that. Constricting tendrils, whenever nature magic skills, deal damage, you have a chance to apply that. And then ancestral guidance, after spending spirit, you deal increased damage. So if I was looking at this first, I really like the Thunderstruck tree. So I'm definitely going to kind of add that up there. And then I also liked this one where we're spending spirit. Put that up there. And then maybe this one here. This one is when nature magic skills deal damage, they have a chance to entangle enemies. So I like that because I'm using the nature magic skills. So once I get a couple of these, let me add the other one back up here. Once I get a couple of these, I kind of lay them all out. And you can definitely like, you don't have to use the legendary node. That's one thing to keep in mind. There are other nodes as well. So I guess we go over those. We have glyph sockets, which is the next biggest thing. There are tons of glyphs. You definitely want to sit down and go through and look. So like the first one, This is a poison damage node. If we're doing maybe a little bit of poison damage. I'm not sure yet, right? But yeah, you'd kind of go through and look for things. So here we have Fulminate. You deal increased lightning damage, and you deal increased lightning damage to healthy and injured enemies. So you're going to want to go through and look for the glyphs you want as well. You don't need to do that immediately. You can hold off on the glyphs for a bit. Personally, I like to kind of figure out what trees I want to use first. So let's say I like these 3 trees, right? So what I would do is, on this website, it's nice because you don't actually need to connect to them. Eventually, though, you need to make sure that each node is touching like this. So you cannot go diagonal. You can't go up to here and then click here. This is not a connection. You have to go left, right, or up, down. So I like to go into each tree that I like this legendary node. Let's see what else is in the tree, right? So we picked the Thunderstruck tree, and then I start to look around in the tree. What's down here? Tempest. Ooh, crit damage and damage to vulnerable enemies. I'm critting. I'm putting vul. I like that one. So I take that. I kind of look around and see what other nodes are next to it. I like all of these, right? So I'll click like this. And this is what's nice, is I can kind of like pick the nodes here and there wherever I want. I don't have to connect them yet. We will get to that though. Maybe I come over here. I'm like lightning resistance and life. Maybe I don't really need those. I kind of want something a little more defensive than that. Damage reduction from vulnerable enemies. That's really nice. I would take that. It's also within our glyph socket, right? So finding, going to your glyph socket, and if you really like the ones, storm skill damage, we like that. Storm skill damage, doing things like this is where I would start. So glyph socket, I like both nodes in the glyph socket. We can come over here, crit damage, damage to CC'd enemies. This is really nice too. Potion healing in life. Maybe I'm not looking to use potions, stuff like that. So I would just go through each tree and click nodes like this, because the rest of the nodes are just +5 main stat. These are kind of like your travel nodes, right? But they're very important. They'll come into play later, so we'll talk about that. But so you want to look at the legendary node, then you want to look at the rare nodes, which are the yellow nodes, and then you want to look at the blue nodes around them, because you'll see the blue nodes around each node, right? So you kind of go through each tree, and I kind of click each one. You're almost always going to take the ones by the glyph socket. The glyph socket's really important, and there's a lot of variables to the glyph socket. So like, I'll show for example. So if we were going to put in that one we were looking at, Fulminate, this is the level of the glyph. You'll be able to like level these up as you go. This just increases like how much damage each one gives you. And then when we put this in here, we can see at the bottom, requirements. The requirements are for the additional bonus you see in the middle. So if I want to deal increased lightning damage to both healthy and injured enemies, I need to have 25 dexterity within this radius here. So it will start as a smaller radius and get bigger as well. Keep that in mind, but eventually you'll have them to this size. So if you're gonna put a node like this in here, you know, you're gonna want a lot of like dexterity in there, right? So there's little things like that to keep in mind. That's kind of why I hold off on the glyphs a little bit. I kind of like make the boards that I like and then add the glyphs in later, because then I can kind of like, you know, mix and match. So nature magic damage, I want this. We'll just kind of go through real quick. Some life, sure. Things like that, you know, nature magic damage. So I would kind of go through each of these nodes, see which ones I like. Yeah, I want to do some damage here and there, right? Maybe some defenses, damage taken over time reduction, things like that, right? So I would go through, click on them like that. Let's see, we'll do this one. Grab like the legendary node. We got the glyph socket, you know, grab some around here. Okay, we'll fill that out for a sec. We'll just kind of grab a couple just so I can show you guys. This is, do not follow this build. This is not a actual build. This is just to show you how I do it. So all right, so now that we have some of these, the things to keep in mind are you need to come in through one of these gates and leave through one of these gates if you want to connect to another board. You can turn these boards any way you want. So you can turn it around in a circle, any direction. You can put them in any order. You could just do a straight line up if you want to do that. You could go over to the left. I don't think you can wrap back around to the starter node. I think you have to come up and then go here. We don't know for sure, but once you have this set up, you can kind of start to get an idea of like what direction you want to travel. So like if I'm looking over here, I see that I have nodes in this corner and nodes in this corner, and then one kind of in the middle. So there's like a couple ways to go about this, right? I could come in through this way. We'll just add a board over here for now and come down this way to connect these nodes, right? And then I'll need to connect over here and then connect here. And then this kind of gives us something of an idea of what we're looking for, right? Like, okay, now I know I want a board coming in this way and a board coming out this way, right? Instead of doing something like that, you could also just go up the middle and possibly connect like this, right? We'll just throw a glyph in there for now. Then these are connected. Now, all of a sudden, you don't actually need to go out either of these, right? Because you have a way to come in and a way to go out. And these are connected as well. You could also not do this, right? And just connect these middle ones here and then leave out through this way. And now you've created 4 gates on one board. You could also not go out this way, right? You kind of have to sit and play with it. Once you figure out the nodes you want, you can then start to shape, okay, how's this board going to look? Once you start to get these together, that's when you can start moving them around and positioning them. So for example, we have to start in the starter nodes, like I said, right? So we know we're going to come up here, we're going to get a glyph, and then we need to go out through this way, okay? So once we come out this way, there, now we're connected. We can just start connecting our nodes like this, right? Now, the first time you do this, it's not going to be perfect. You're going to kind of like get some stuff, and then you're going to realize you're like wasting a bunch of points and stuff like that. And then, like I was saying, you're going to get to the glyphs. And then like, if I'm looking here, I have 15 out of 25 dexterity. Like, oh, okay. So maybe instead of going like, you know, this way, instead of taking this willpower, maybe I take this dex instead. Like for a per point basis, willpower is better than dex, but if it's going to activate my glyph, that's going to be a lot better, right? That also then leads into, well, maybe this glyph isn't in the best spot, right? Maybe there's another glyph that instead of dex, I need willpower, and there's a bunch of willpower nodes in here. It is pretty in depth. I know a lot of people were kind of just memeing about it, but this is definitely like the hardest part of building. This is the easiest way have found to do it personally. Same thing. I would just kind of keep going. Like there's kind of like a cluster over here that I like. So maybe I try to connect them like this and go like, oh, there's a gate right here. You know, maybe I can go out this way. And then you'll start to know like, oh, well, I have too many that are just like this bottom 2 corners. Like, oh, wait, I could turn it, right? And I can go out one way and come in the other. One thing to keep in mind too is like, once you go in, you also don't have to leave. So for example, if we have this board over here, say I want to get to this legendary node, right? But I don't really want anything else in here. I could turn it so that I could go right in like this, straight to the legendary node. I don't have to do anything else with this board. That's it. You don't have to fill out the board. You can put in as many boards as you want. Now, the downside to doing that is as you go deeper, each board you add increases the requirements on the stat points. So if you see here, I'll go ahead and assign this one. So let's assign this to, this will be, so here you do assign index, and this is saying this is the second board I'm equipping. So when I do this, you can see in lightning resilience, it now says for the bonus, I need 340 intelligence. This requirement just goes up and up and up and up as you add more. Now, this is only for the rare nodes. The glyphs aren't affected by this. So you could have a sort of strategy of, you know, there's not really a lot of legendary nodes I want. I'm going to try to go through as many boards as possible while only taking the glyph. So like, here's a good example of like, say you like came in through this way, right? And then you're like, I don't really want like this stuff down here, but I really want this glyph. You could just travel in this way, get this glyph, come out this way, and then add a brand new board up here, right? And see, well, that glyph's kind of in the middle. And then you could choose like different boards like that basically, right? And your whole goal could just be to, here's a good one right here, right? We could just come in, here, how do we do this? You could just come in this way, grab the glyph, and then head on out. Or you could just grab the glyph and just stop. You don't need to finish, right? If you put some boards that connect up here and connect over here, these don't even have to connect either, or you can make them connect. Like I said, it is kind of tough. We haven't really had our hands on it in game, so it's hard to say, you know, exactly how to do it, but this has been the most successful for me. Like I was saying, a lot of people are asking, you know, like, why don't people do more Paragon boards, or like, you know, how do I even get started? So I hope these were enough tips. It's a lot more simple than it looks. I'll say that. It's a little overwhelming at first, but once you kind of just go like, okay, I like these boards, I like these nodes in these boards, and then you kind of just start clicking and putting them together, it really will start to fall in place. So if you guys have any questions about these, I'd love to answer them. Make sure you leave them down in the comment section below. But yeah, otherwise, until next time, I'll see you guys later.